based on how people in our family treat us. I remember with one young man, I was up in Indonesia one time, and I was in a young people's meeting. And they added on a couple of extra meetings, and this, I said, God, let's just have a great time this meeting. You know, we'd done about 10 meetings and added on another 2, and I said, God, just give me something special for this meeting. And so there was we had this meeting, they got going, and there was a lot of young people there, and this young man gave his testimony. And it was a great testimony, really, and he testified this. He shared how he was hated by his father, and how he grew up, his father cursed him from day one, never wanted him, never expressed any love, any value to him. He talked about the pain of growing up, and how as a young man he got involved in homosexuality. And he talked about just the pain in his life of not being wanted, not being valued. And so he shared his testimony, how someone had come to him and witnessed to him, and he'd come to Christ and broken out of homosexuality, and now he was just glad that his sins are forgiven, he's got a fresh start, and that God loves him. And when he shared this testimony, I just felt in my heart just such a love for this young man. And I was thinking, I just felt I want to give him a hug. And I thought, you can't sort of just do that in the middle of a meeting. And God, I wonder why I'm feeling that way. And I kind of felt like I was sensing the heart of God to just love him and welcome him. That even though his natural father didn't want him, he was still valued by God. So I got up to start sharing, and the Spirit of God started to move, and we started to have some things happening. Deliverance started to break out in the meeting, and I never did get to preach that day. We just had a massive move of people being set free. And in the middle of it, I remember the young man. I said, hey, where's that young guy who gave testimony? And they brought him over to me, and I just thanked him for sharing such a great testimony. And I said to him, while you were sharing, I just felt I'd love to hug you. So you'd know that God really does love you and value you. And I said, would you mind if I gave you a big hug? And he said, no, it'd be great. And I put my arms around him and held on him. Well, it was like hugging a tree. Man. I mean, a tree would have more life in it, I think. You know, hugging him was like, he was like on the inside, he was. And I realized as I hugged him that he had this huge wall around his heart. Yes, he'd broken free, but he still was deeply hurt. And so I just held on to him, and I said, God, I want you just to love this young man through me. And I held him, and he was a bit uncomfortable, and I just held him and held him. And I was aware, of course, that the only other men that have hugged him have been homosexual men. But I hugged him and said, God, let your love flow through me. And then I felt him begin to break, and suddenly he began to sob. Now, he just sobbed